Welcome back, everybody. It's time to begin the Egyptian campaign. This mission is quite good, although it's poorly explained because they saved the tutorial until afterwards. This cinematic is very nicely put together too. The dialogue is good, it introduces the new plot quite well, the camera work is nice, the scenery is nice, everything about it is well done, really.
So you have no idea where we are?
Admiral.
Here comes our fourth main character. She'll be with us for the rest of the campaign.
What are you doing here?
We're lost.
And unlucky, too. I am Amanra. Prepare your men. We have to defend this area.
Defended against what?
This oasis holds treasures beyond water. A relic is buried here. My enemies are on their way to try to take it.
What does that have to do with us?
Look around. Those passes are the only entrance to this oasis. Escape through them and you will run headlong into the worshippers of Set. You can choose to die there, or fight here with me.
It's going to be a busy few seconds here. I'll use this god pair to get a little bit of extra gold, have these guys drop off their lumber and get to work. Over here, this upgrade will give me free food for the rest of the mission. You may as well have the villagers drop off whatever they're carrying before you order them to go elsewhere. Now, I've done many tests, and the best place to build walls in this mission is right here. Nothing else will do. Have these guys work on separate wall sections. And I'll group up my scattered troops now. You can see that the walls from the cinematics are not here. Those are only available on the lower difficulties. Don't forget this one random priest here. So, priests are a new and important unit type for the Egyptians. They're mostly good for healing, but they're also heroes, which makes them good against myth units. They have a weak attack against non-myth unit enemies. Ooh, I'd better move this laborer back to the correct side of the wall, so they don't need to build a gate there to let them back through. My tests have also shown that I need to build one barracks, and that it's not important to do so before finishing the wall. Everybody else should work on the dig site instead. As usual, I'll put my heroes into one control group as tanks. Now, it's impossible to get 0 casualties on this mission, because that one stupidly placed tower will be killed by enemy catapults. With strategy, micro, and a bit of luck, I can take no human casualties, though. So, once this thing over here is dug out, I win. This puts an interesting spin upon what would otherwise be a fairly normal RTS survival chapter by giving you a trade-off to decide upon between building speed versus resource gathering, and therefore unit production. But, as it happens, we have plenty of resources and starting troops anyway, so we don't really need to gather anything else. Thus, it's most efficient to just build the one wall and barracks and then have all the villagers work on the dig site. Since I have a lot of slingers already, I find it's most efficient to get the slinger upgrade first, and then get lots of axemen to handle the enemy infantry. With these 2 priests for healing, my heroes can tank almost indefinitely. Speaking of which, now is a good time to talk about the new hero, Amanra. Unfortunately, she is, by far, the worst unit of all the main characters. She's got the worst damage, she has the worst hit points, and she has just a terrible ability. She jumps into combat, like this. It does a lousy 15 damage, has almost no multiplier against myth units even, plus it gets her into trouble. Worst of all, she'll often ignore your orders to run in and jump even when you're telling her to run back instead. So if she isn't constantly babysat, she'll die a lot. But on the positive side, she is, of course, another free unit. That's always worth something. I like her quite a lot as a character, too. I would rank her among the best done female characters I've ever seen in video games. Unfortunately, that bar is low enough that Amanra could jump over it. So the reason I haven't talked much about healing before is that the Greeks basically have no healing units. The Egyptians, on the other hand, have access to the best healing in the game. They can train these priests in any number they want from the archaic age. They're quite cheap too. The Greeks only had that one god power from Athena, and also, if you played as Apollo, which you couldn't do in most of the Greek campaign, his temples can heal people, but that's not very efficient. Healing is quite fast on people who are not in combat, but if the unit being healed is fighting, or healing somebody else, or even just walking, then the rate is greatly reduced. I messed up my control group there for a second and had to fix it. Now, it's exceedingly important to keep the enemy from attacking your priests on this mission, because we can't build any more, and they're very slow, so they have trouble escaping if they come under attack. You may be surprised to see me building so many axemen when I said before that they're very weak units. That's true, but in this mission the enemy sends almost nothing but infantry, which they counter, and we have nothing better we can build available. Anyway, now that I have a lot of axemen deployed, I'll get their upgrade. Then I'll sell some of my food and trade that to get lumber at the marketplace so I can build more slingers and keep a more balanced army. Slingers are bad too, of course, but they do counter the enemy slingers. And, after all, I don't want to have only melee units, because too many of those guys will block each other from getting into the fight efficiently. It can be easy to forget that marketplaces let you trade resources like this, but in some missions it's the best way to get some things in time. You'll notice that I take some care to make sure the enemy slingers don't attack mine. Enemy slingers are only good against my slingers, after all. Keep healing. A dangerous enemy boss is coming at approximately minute 6.5, so I need to be ready for that. My units love to attack catapults, but they should actually be the lowest priority, because they're terribly inaccurate against human soldiers. It's like a 1 out of 10 chance that they hit at all. You'll also note that I often try to micro to get my priests to heal instead of auto-attacking. Plus, I order people under heavy attack back to safety, and manually order priests to heal the most important people instead of letting them do what they want. These catapults are the real reason you can't get 0 casualties on this mission. They can instant kill these tents, and their range is so huge that you can't really stop them. Even with perfect micro, getting 0 casualties among the humans is quite luck-based. It depends on how the boss behaves. Come to think of it, I don't think I actually gave a number for the priest healing rate. The base is 7.5, I believe. This mission would be much easier if I had better vision. That way I could see the enemies coming and get into formation for them. Constantly waiting for surprises makes things feel rather luck-based at times. The mini-boss is coming. Here he is. He's unpredictable. His attacks are tremendously powerful lightning attacks that bounce around different people. Sometimes his lightning doesn't seem to bounce to your human soldiers, which makes it possible to beat him with 0 casualties. But if it does bounce to them, you'll probably lose a guy or two no matter what you do. This time I got pretty lucky. These are siege towers here. They're kind of like an Egyptian version of Helopoli, but they're available in the heroic age and they can only attack in melee. Heroes stay over here, get them healed up, and infantry can chew up these things pretty fast. Whoa, okay. Gotta have these guys back off. Slingers versus slingers. Gotta have mine focus them down first. Nicely done. I'm actually on track to get 0 human casualties this time. As long as I save Amonra here anyway. She does have good speed at least, that's something. Even if it's not as good as Chiron's. It's hard to get healed up in time for these last few fights after that boss's multi-target attack. You know, the sword we're after is actually exposed here. I don't know why we keep digging instead of just taking it. Whatever. Very close to a win now. I would pay a lot of resources for a 3rd priest on this mission. Come on, priests. Sometimes they seem to pause for no reason. Don't know why. In future missions, there's actually an upgrade which doubles priest healing speed to 15 per second. Quite nice. But alas, we can't get that here. Okay, need to aggro these guys here. Close to finishing. Try to keep any people from dying. I especially keep an eye on Amonra, who is the most fragile, as I mentioned. Alright, I think I've got this. Gonna get 0 casualties. Oh darn it. So close. As a post-commentary note here, that was incredibly bad luck. Those catapults had a terrible chance to hit him, but they did so again and again and again. Well, no humans died. And without that extraordinary stroke of bad luck right at the end, I would have had 0 casualties whatsoever. I'd say that's quite a well put together mission, and it's a lot of fun. It would be even better if we had fewer starting troops though. That way there'd be a real choice to make between trying to finish faster versus trying to gather resources. Anyway, here's the Egyptian tutorial.
When playing the Egyptians, there are 2 things to remember. First, the Pharaoh is one of your most important units. He can be tasked to empower different buildings in your city. While the Pharaoh is empowering a completed building, the building will train units, research improvements, and gather resources faster. The Pharaoh can also be tasked on foundations, speeding the building's construction. In combat, your Pharaoh is very strong against myth units. You only have 1 Pharaoh, so where and when to use him is very important. The Egyptians gain favor by building monuments. There are 5 different monuments that can be built. You can only build one of each. You will gain favor faster with each new one constructed.
Age of Mythology really shows impressive polish and effort, even on things like these tutorial cinematics, I would say. Anyway, a fun mission and a good start to the Egyptian campaign. I think I did quite well with a near record time there and almost no casualties. Have a great day, everyone!